Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This is the Town of Somers Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is February 19th, 2019. Denise, would you please take the roll?
Yes. Mr. Carpenetto?
Here.
Ms. DiPolito?
Here.
Mr. Gio?
Here.
Mr. Hardin?
Here.
Mr. Newman?
Here.
Mr. Santoroni?
Here.
Chairman Canestra?
Here.
Thank you.
I'd request everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. One announcement before we start. Item number 5 on the agenda this evening, that of Kayla Choquette and David Potter, has been withdrawn by the applicant. Just to give a little explanation here, the building inspector and myself consulted with town council today, quite an extended period of time. Those two lots have been merged according to a previous zoning decision, so there's no current required variances for any of the proposed items that the applicant is, that the landowner, homeowner is requesting at this time. And right now, this board has no jurisdiction because there is no other matter before the zoning board at this time. So that matter has been withdrawn. So we're going to go right to item number 1 on the agenda, that of Michael and Josephine Kimple. Is there someone here to represent the applicant? No. Sir, if you could just give us your name and address and briefly describe the application.
Okay, Michael Kimple. I live at 12 Stonehouse Road, and the application is for renewal of a permit for accessory apartment.
Okay. So this is a renewal. You have an existing apartment there.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have any complaints regarding this apartment at all in zoning? None you're aware of? Okay. Okay. Are you currently renting this apartment to family members or?
Well, it's family, yes.
Family? Okay. And how many people reside in the apartment?
My father-in-law, I mean, he comes occasionally. You know.
Okay, so just one person?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. You don't know of any complaints of neighbors or any other issues with the apartment and everything?
No.
Okay. Tom, have you been out there recently to inspect it? Does it currently meet the code requirements?
Yes.
As far as square?
Identical as what was originally approved.
Okay, that's great.
Now, you do realize that the septic system the septic tank has to be pumped out every 5 years?
Yes, I do it less than that. I provided the documentation.
I have a copy of Putnam Septic, and it was pumped in 2017.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Is there anything else you'd like to add at this particular time?
No.
No. Okay. Anybody here in the audience wishes to speak in regard to this application? Any comments or questions? No? Any further discussion amongst the board? Any other issues or anything else we have to talk about? No?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the type of action.
I'll make a motion type 2.
Second?
Mr. Carpenetto?
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Hardin?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Santoroni?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion as to whether we're going to grant the special exception use permit?
I'd like to make the motion to grant it
Second.
based on the fact that you have to come in front of us 7 years from now.
Yes.
Second?
Mr. Carpenetto?
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Hardin?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Santoroni?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, your application is granted. As indicated, every 7 years, the permit is for 7 years, you have to come back before us.
I understand.
for renewal.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is that of Somers Crossing LLC. This is an application for an area variance for propane tanks, as well as placing them underground, located in an MFR DH at 307 Route 100 Somers. Sir, if you could just give us your name and briefly describe the application for us.
Yes, good evening. Gus Boniello, Somers Crossing.
Thank you.
Basically, you outlined it. We're here for variance for propane tanks, 66-unit condo subdivision. And that's basically what it boils down to, just for burying the tanks.
Okay. How many tanks are we talking about here?
Each unit will have one individual tank, small 500-gallon propane tank,
Each unit?
each unit.
Okay. So this is 66 units.
Yes.
So this is an approval for 66 tanks?
Correct.
That's what this is? Okay. Now, I see a diagram here, Somers Crossing propane tanks. And I guess it's just, there's a lot of different sizes of tanks and variations and things. I'm looking at this specifically.
Yes, it's,
I wasn't sure what this represented. It seemed like a lot going on here. And maybe this is just laying out the setback requirements?
But it is code requirements for separation distances.
Okay, okay.
generally speaking, residential, you gotta be 10 foot away from the building, 10 foot away from any openings. Yeah, any sources of ignition, et cetera.
Things like that, okay. And how big is each tank?
500 gallon
500 gallon. And these are all propane tanks?
propane,
Okay.
strictly propane.
So the issue with leakage, if I believe, is not an issue?
That's right.
It's not like an oil tank where it could seep and contaminate. Propane goes out and dissipates and,
Exactly.
Right.
Propane goes to atmosphere, fuel oil goes down into the water.
yeah. Okay. And Tom, this is before us. We had a similar application like this when the Chicos came before us. So any of these buried tanks have to come before us? I think we've had this also at Heritage for the Waterworks Company.
Right, in both locations, because of the groundwater protection overlay, and
Oh.
our zoning prohibits the burying of liquid propane storage tanks.
Okay. And there's certain setbacks from wetlands and all kinds of things like that associated with these, or no?
Yes, but the applicant wouldn't be encroaching, you're gonna be fairly close to the building as the code permits.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any close proximity to wetlands? where
No,
this is-
there's no location where we'd even be within the 100-foot setback. We're outside of all of that.
Okay. What are the propane tanks going to be used for? Is this for heating or?
No, it's geothermal heat source for the units themselves. This is for cooking and a fireplace, and if they choose a generator.
And a generator, okay. Those are quite big tanks, a 500-gallon tank.
We were wrestling between 250 and 500.
Okay.
If they put the generator in, then they'd like to see a 500-gallon tank.
Because that'll last, obviously, longer. That's the
exactly,
reason
yeah.
for it. Okay.
So if I understood this correctly, now, you are going for a 500-gallon tank, period, per unit? Based on, in the sense of, when will they know if they decide to go with a generator? So you,
We're just to standardize it, we're using 500 gallons on all of them.
okay. Thank you.
So Gus, the way I see this is you have the tank buried sort of in the middle of the yard. Is that pretty much where it's gonna be?
Again, this is more a general schematic.
That's
basically
what I was
lays out-
worried about.
Excuse me, that lays out setbacks. Generally, we're gonna stay right behind the decks on the units, so it'll be roughly 14, 15 feet away from the building itself.
Right. So then, when they replenish the propane, what, they walk around
Yes,
the building to the back?
exactly.
There's one fireplace per unit, one gas stove per unit?
Yes,
Okay. And then, like you said, a generator if they so desire to install one?
And that would be all plumbed pre-ahead of time?
I'm sorry, say again?
That would be all plumbed up pre-ahead of time if they decide to do so? Or it should be done
not-
while they in contract?
It would be plumbed when and if they put in a generator. It's right there. Everything's within 15 feet.
So, Tom, would there be, would the planning board would also be involved here in terms of once this is all mapped out, or?
No, I consulted the planning board and they said just zoning, they don't have any, they're not involved in looking at the application.
Because I guess these are all underground, just a cap showing, right? Just for filling.
Yeah.
These are anchored,
Dead sand. They're surrounded by sand.
surrounded by sand, okay.
Yeah,
That will prevent them from, that'll keep them down, not.
Yes, there's no, the whole site, there's no water table issues at all.
But sometimes I know tanks can float up too if they're not anchored down.
The larger ones, usually they do that on 1,000-gallon up to,
Right.
larger 3,000-gallon tanks.
But there's no issue with that?
No,
that you
we've
said.
never once had done that.
Okay.
So, my question is, I guess coming into this, I assumed this was a tank maybe for a common area or something like that. I didn't realize it was 66 individual tanks. Given that, I don't know, Tom, if you can tell us a little bit more about why the zoning code is that way, and would 66 tanks be a lot?
The code just prohibits burying, just the propane tank with groundwater protection overlay. And that's why you had, Chico's made application to bury their tanks, and Heritage Hills wastewater treatment plant made application to bury their tank.
Okay. Just in that area?
That's why.
Yeah,
Just for the groundwater protection overlay, which they are in.
right. Because normal homeowners don't have to do this. Other homeowners in other areas don't have to,
They were in the groundwater protection overlay.
they would.
This is probably something you'll have to address, or the town will address sooner or later, because it's only recently that it has been looked at like this. Propane tanks were never considered along the same lines as fuel oil tanks. The whole premise, the whole purpose of this ordinance was they don't want to pollute the groundwater. And fuel oil tanks, if they leak, they pollute the groundwater. Propane tanks do not. One member of the planning board says, well, it really is a hydrocarbon, it's, so he was kind of looking at it all in the same light. Well, up and down the whole area, this groundwater protection area is basically all Route 100, this whole lower portion here, from Heritage Hill, from way up north by Stonehouse, all the way down towards the townhouse, towards the highway garage. It's all the groundwater protection area. It's never been used like that or looked at it like that, but, it was easier for us to just ask for a variance and, reinvent the wheel here, so to speak.
And the separate tanks here are so that, based on usage of each homeowner, they're paying for their own utilities. 'Cause
Exactly.
if you had one common tank for 3 or 4 buildings, one person could be using 90% of the propane, right? That's the.
Yeah,
purpose,
you could always put a larger tank in, and you have to, pipe it obviously to the unit and then meter each one. It becomes more problematic, more chance for, problems, et cetera.
Right.
What is the lifespan of these tanks? How often are they likely to have to be changed out?
I'm not even sure. I couldn't really tell you, but as a builder, fuel oil tanks are very thin-walled. Propane tanks are probably, if I had to guess, 5 or 10 times as thick as a fuel oil tank.
I think they have to actually go out there and test them once in a while too.
They pressure test the tanks? Yeah.
Pressure test them, they have the anodes that, so the tank is,
So a homeowner would be required on a regular basis to test the tank? Are you saying? Because this would be the homeowner, who owns it?
The
Usually,
homeowner, but the
owns the tank.
propane company usually is the one who's involved. But they don't re-pressure test. They pressure test them before they're installed. Once they're installed, they're under a low pressure. And again, if there's ever a problem, it's generally not the tank, it's usually a fitting or something. People smell gas, they come out, they repair it.
the guy who sells them the gas would probably, check the tanks too.
Right. So, Tom, would you agree with that sentiment that this was sort of, so the public safety issue or environmental issue is to do with oil tanks, and propane tanks are sort of just lumped in with that for zoning purposes, and that putting in 66 tanks in the ground wouldn't present any significant environmental or public safety?
I referred the applicant to the planning office, and they said that they did not need to review the application.
So which would mean they had no environmental concerns.
That's strange.
And we still get permits for each individual tanks when we install that, of course. This isn't just a permit to install it, we need permits to, when the plumber goes to install the lines and stuff, they get permits and it gets tested then.
And these tanks are not involved anyway with heating the house.
Correct.
Yes, sir, if you could just go up to the microphone, just speak, just so everybody can hear you. We want to have this on the record.
Yeah.
So you're saying that permits have to be received for each of the tanks before they go in?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a building permit that you would issue for each tank? Plumbing permit.
And plumbing tests are done on them for, make sure,
Yes,
Piping
like every other propane tank.
right?
And sir, yes, these are not for heat.
So the fireplace is more ornamental?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant or any other discussion we want to have regarding this? Is anybody here wish to speak in regard to this application? Any questions or issues? No? Sir, any more comments you have at this point in time?
No, not really.
Okay. Any other questions or comments we have at this time?
I mean, my overall concern was just that it's a lot of tanks, and if there was zoning code for that, there was a reason for it. If propane is sort of the outlier to what that was really intended for was fuel oil, then I can understand that.
It did seem like a lot of tanks at first. I was like 66, wow. But it being propane, I just know that propane isn't an environmental issue. If they leak, it dissipates.
Right.
It's not a contamination issue. That's why.
And in terms of any other safety issue, I suppose the safety issue would be the same, whether or above ground or below.
One question that I have, are there safety mechanisms on these tanks if they are leaking? Is it just smell, or is there any sort of alert system
On the
if it's
outs-
leaking?
On the outside of the building, no. There's no, inside of the buildings, by code, I believe, Tommy, now,
Right.
every building has to have a gas detector, I believe. So,
Carbon monoxide, which is different, yeah.
It's different than propane.
But it has to go past plumbing inspections for interior plumbing and
Yes.
exterior, make sure there's no leaks
it's
in the
all
pipe.
pressure tested by a licensed plumber, et
And of
cetera.
course, propane has that odor or smell, so you know if there's a leak or a problem with it, obviously.
So if this were above ground, if these were above ground, there'd be no variance required, Tom?
Correct.
You'd have to pass the same plumbing and has the same setback requirements.
That I would refer, to the planning department as well now, see if they wanted to, take a look at that if it were to be above ground. But for below ground, they still need to have a review of the application.
Cosmetic-wise and appeal-wise would be much more soothing to the eye, in-ground versus above.
That's
They
the
have
rea-
66 of these things on the property.
that's the
hanging out.
reason, yeah. That's exactly the reason why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That would
kind
look hard.
of ugly.
Yeah, and usually the planning board, I mean, we often get a letter from the planning board if it's one way or the other, right, giving some sort of opinion on things. I guess the fact that they didn't do that and just said, just go to zoning would indicate that they didn't have any other concerns.
It was just a conversation.
Yeah.
It was a telephone conversation.
Can you give me the approximate dimensions of a 500-gallon tank? It's a pretty big tank.
What do you think, Ron? About 7 foot, not even, about 5 foot wide,
Yeah, about 5 or 6
maybe
feet.
10 foot long,
4 feet wide,
or maybe even 4. Yeah. Yeah, probably about 4 foot by 8.
Yeah, they're fairly good-sized tanks, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my concern would be, are we, without knowing what all of the risk factors could be to this, to approve 66 tanks gives me a little bit of concern. I'd rather have a bit of an expert opinion on that. If it were, again, coming in, I thought it might be for a common area, one tank for a common area, which, so I'm not saying I'm opposed to approving it, but I would love to get an opinion. Is this, what's the timing
Make
of?
it a little, we have handouts from who? From the Propane Education Research Council. It basically outlines, basically, the top paragraph says it all. There's two there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
You don't hear much about any of them blowing up, you know? This is pretty safe.
Yeah, I think that would be the biggest concern,
Near a
exploding.
barbecue and,
Yeah, I mean, but I can't tell you when I've ever heard of one happening, but.
You're gonna see much more of a push for natural gas nowadays.
Where's the nearest natural gas, Gus, do you know?
The what, Ron?
Where's the nearest natural gas? Up
Uh,
Heritage?
The far end of Heritage, I believe. Yeah, there's no piped gas on the road
By
at all.
Old Street.
They have natural gas at Heritage, I didn't even know that part of it.
Part of it,
Yeah,
the new side.
Northern portion of Westville.
yeah. Well, natural gas is kind of like propane, same type of thing, where it just dissipates, right? There's no
Yeah,
contamination
exactly.
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, what's said on this page is what I generally understand propane, like natural gas, to be, that if it leaks, it dissipates, it's,
Exactly.
it's not like fuel oil where you have all kinds of contamination, potential problems.
No, they spell it out much better than I can.
What would be the timing of when you intend to put these in the ground?
They go in as the units get built.
Okay.
Some are already up.
I mean, town code, it kind of covers, I think, if this was really an issue, I guess they would be more reviewed by planning or, additional permits, as long as they're getting the proper permits and plumbing. I don't know what additional expert we can bring in at this point in time to discuss this with us.
It sounds like the code just wants to make sure that there's no storage, like a large tank where Suburban would come and fill their trucks up,
Yeah.
something like that. But for the regular houses and stuff, it's pretty normal.
If we're gonna vote for 66 tanks in a district that doesn't allow them, then that code really ought to be looked at.
Just talk of that.
Okay.
There's been some discussion of
Doesn't
that.
it say that they're allowed to be, if it's for residential use?
this is,
Say that?
yes, it does say, except for necessary residential use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave you all a copy of the code.
Right.
In section H here, it says the storage of hydrocarbon products, except those necessary for residential use in homes and vehicles, provided that such products are stored in appropriate containers, so. Okay. comments or questions? Any other?
No, thank you for this. This is helpful for me because it even talks about the benefits of being underground as opposed to above with not being exposed to weather and corrosion, being at a more stable temperature. So those all seem like pluses that would make this the safer option.
Even to the question of how long they'll last, it says properly installed and maintained underground propane tanks can have a useful life of several decades.
Right, so we won't have a constant changing.
Any further comments or discussions? Okay, any further comments from you, sir?
No.
One more time for the audience, anybody here to comment regarding the application? Okay, I think it's, if we're gonna proceed to a vote, I think it's time to vote for the type of action.
Make a motion type 2.
Second.
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harding?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Santoroni?
Got it, abstain, please.
Thank you. Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion in regard to the application?
I'll make a motion to grant the application for a propane tank per unit.
Second.
Ice.
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harding?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Santoroni?
Again, I'd like to abstain, please.
Thank you. Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir, your application's been granted.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening is that of Regis and Jan Mariner. Hold on, Marinier, thank you. This is an application for a 13-foot side yard area variance for a side porch addition located in an R80 residential district at 11 Autumn Ridge Court, Katona. Sir, if you could just, when you get a chance, yeah, please put your drawings up. If you could just give us your name and briefly describe your application for us.
Good evening. My name is William Beshrat. I am representing the owner who happened to be out of the country and got stuck because of the snow. They went up skiing and they are stuck. So they could not be here. He texted me. He apologized. He
Okay.
was supposed to be here, arriving in New York this morning, and it's put off till tomorrow, hopefully.
Okay, and of course, sir, you're here authorized by them to be
Yes,
here.
I am. Yes, I am. Okay. The situation is this. This house was built, I think, prior to the code change, and they rezoned the area, because the house was built 35 feet from the property line. And when it was built, on the side of the property, they put French doors, and I have a picture to show you the side of the house. This is the side where we need the variance on the house itself. It's all these are French doors, they're not windows.
Okay, thank you.
The-
Okay, so,
So what happened is, it was like to be built one day, they'll get to it, and they put the deck or the patio on the side. As a matter of Mr. Boniel, I think, the one who built it back then.
okay, so those are French doors, or if you opened it, you've got a,
You got about 6-7 foot step.
yeah, that's not really
It's the
great.
first step you have to worry about, the rest of them are fine.
First step is easy.
So, the applicant right now, Mr. Marinier, they would like to rebuild the deck in the back. It has an old-fashioned pressure-treated lumber deck that's kind of, falling apart, and they want to really spend money on landscaping the property. So they proposing to put a big concrete deck in the back, which is, within the setbacks and everything else, is not an issue. But the side deck, to accommodate those French doors that they want to add to the house, will encroach on the setbacks. Like I said, the house itself exists 35 feet from the property line, where the required is 40 feet. And what we propose is approximately 8-foot side deck, and that will put us on the required variance that we needed. Like I said before, this is the area, is the only area that we can locate this deck to serve the need for this. There's no additional property available to make the variance go away. As it was intended originally was for the deck to be in, for one reason or another was not installed. It will not create a hardship on anybody else. It doesn't interfere with anybody's view. It doesn't create a bad aesthetic for the area. As a matter of fact, it will blend in with the rest of the houses that they are well maintained and very large homes in general.
We didn't get an elevation drawing, will we, for this?
This is
Talking about
the
half-
elevation of the house. This is the back elevation.
Yeah, sir, if you could just take the microphone with you maybe when you talk. Yeah, just so everybody can hear you. Should be able to come out of there.
There you go.
Check it out.
This is the back of the house. The elevation of the house shows both decks. This is the main deck, and this is the side deck onto the house.
Okay, that's it. Oops.
That's
That's okay. Okay.
And we're gonna like I said, it's gonna be made very high end with stone facing and concrete. They're spending some nice money on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I was a little confused that you're talking about a deck, but it looks like it has a flagstone finish.
It is.
So-
It's a concrete deck.
So it's a concrete deck, okay, so
Yes.
it's filled in,
It's gonna fill exactly. It's gonna be done. Like I said, they're really gonna be putting a lot of money in the landscaping of this property.
Okay.
And the way they want to do it.
and there were no railings indicated on this. Of course, it has railings, because it's
Of
sitting
course,
up high.
because of the height. Yeah. Towards the front of the house is gonna be only like maybe 2 feet above grade, but in the back is gonna be 68 inches, somewhere around there.
Right, the picture looks like it slopes down.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
I noticed that there are no stairs coming off of this deck.
There's no stairs proposed.
Okay, no stairs proposed inside. Tom, that's okay for this? It has 3 entrances from the house, but it doesn't require stairs.
That door 3 foot wide, 6'8" high is the only required egress by code.
Okay, okay. All right, now I understand. I was a little confused by the flagstone and a deck. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that it was gonna be concrete.
Concrete, okay, okay. And as indicated, the setback here should be 40 feet. The house is non-conforming at 35.9. And this must precede the code, I guess? This is pre-existing?
I guess when the house was built, the code was different setbacks required for it. That's why it was built at 35 feet.
How old is the house, will you know?
Doesn't look that old.
I think I would say in the 80s, early 80s.
The house looks fairly new, when you
Yeah.
look at it, it looks fairly modern.
Exactly. That's the only reason why we can think of why it was done I did not really bother to
The house has a
search
C of
what-
O, obviously.
What?
The house has a C of O, right?
Oh, yes. Everything is legal and legitimate in this house.
Okay. Your neighbor to the, I guess it would be south of the property on the same borderline as the proposed porch, how close is the house to that property?
I
To
would
your
say every bit of, as it exists right now, the two houses about a little bit over 100 feet from each other. It's pretty far away, the other house.
So have those people commented on this at all?
As a matter of fact, conversation between the two neighbors, they were completely for it. And I myself said, I really don't think it's gonna be a major issue for you to drag you at dinner time to come to the meeting, but they get along very well with the two neighbors. And there was a conversation about it. And I actually, and my advice, I said to them, I said, contact your neighbors. The neighborly thing to do is, instead of them receiving a letter in the mail saying that this is what we're doing, go talk to them. And he told them, no, we absolutely have no problem. We love the idea. It's, the Marnier, they're going to be like improving the property subside. As is, it's a beautifully well landscaped, but they're looking to improve upon it further.
Right, and they're only going out 8 feet.
8 feet only,
So
yes.
it's.
The
somewhat
porch
of
is
a
only
reason.
strictly for safety purposes and to keep the aesthetics of those French doors, which look beautiful on the inside more than the outside.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with those doors. Somebody opens those things.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know what happened, but back then probably they were, in order for them to get the CO, they were nailed shut with, and through the time, it doesn't look good, take it out. Nobody's using the doors, leave them closed. This is the safest way to do it and make them completely compliant with the code.
Right. So the corner of the porch is 27 feet off the property line, you need 40, so you're looking for a 13-foot variance for
Correct.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of the applicant or any other discussion we want to have regarding this? It's going to be nothing under this porch, right? I mean, it's just going
No.
to be solid.
Yeah.
It's not,
There's no access. The big deck, yeah, we do have steel beams, and they want to use it for storage over the winter, you know, in the winter to store the furniture and what have you.
But this will
But
be-
the side deck, no, it's not gonna.
this will be filled in.
It's gonna be filled in, yeah.
It's not hollow in there, and there's nothing in there, okay. Okay. Anybody here wish to speak in regard to this application? Nope. Okay, sir, any other comments you had, or
No, that's
comments
it.
for the board? Any other questions or comments of the applicant? Okay, are we prepared to vote at this point in time?
Yes.
Okay, I entertain a motion for the type of action. Umberto said type 2.
Type 2.
I'll second.
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Mr. Polito?
Aye.
Mr. Dio?
Aye.
Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Santoroni?
Aye.
Chairman Finestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion in regard to the application?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Mr. Polito?
Aye.
Mr. Dio?
Aye.
Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Santoroni?
Aye.
Chairman Finestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir, your application has been granted.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you would like your photo back?
Yes. Came out so nice, machine that they prints pretty good.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'm here for the next time.
Sure.
Tommy, that was an R4 to R80? An R4 to R80?
That was an R80 zone.
Oh, yeah. No, just my own edification, that's all.
Okay, next item on the agenda this evening is that of Patrick and Patricia Ford. This is an application for a 12-foot side yard area variance for an addition to the living and dining rooms located in an R40 residential district at 9 Little Bear Drive, Yorktown Heights. Sir, if you could just once again give us your name.
William Besharat, I'm representing the Fords. Mr. Ford is here with us tonight. He didn't go skiing, he was smart enough. This proposal, we are proposing to enlarge actually the existing living area that consists of the kitchen area. This is basically a raised ranch of a home. And the space upstairs is pretty tight, particularly in the kitchen and the dining room area. So we propose it to enlarge that area and add an addition to the side of the house to accommodate the need of a growing family. They have the children getting, needed more space, the family, what have you. So in order for us to put the addition and serve the purpose of this addition, we have to go in that direction. The reasons why this direction and we chose to go with the variance on this, if I go towards the back with it, that's where my septic system is, and I cannot really go in that direction at all. On the right-hand side is the only, looking at the house, on the left-hand side of the house is the only location will cause me to encroach on the setbacks. If I go towards the front, I cannot accommodate the enlargement of the kitchen, but also I will need a front yard setbacks as it exists. So we said that this is the only solution for it, and that will serve the purpose. Again, the house itself, we are extending the footprint of the house. We are in compliance with the neighborhood. We're not going to create a hardship on anybody. Again, there is no property available for us to purchase to make this variance go away. And like I said before, I have no other place to put this variance, to put this addition without a variance, because that's the only way that will function for the need of the Ford's family.
And what is the addition going to, what kind of space is the addition going to be used for?
I have a plan over here to show you.
Well, this also shows a deck. correct?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We are also proposing to enlarge the existing deck. This is over here is the addition. This is the kitchen, and there's a small little dining area. So we're making the kitchen the entire small dining room that it's tiny, like a raised ranch type of dining room, making the whole thing. And this is the living room, and this is going to be the dining area, and the family is going to be one open floor plan concept, but still, maintain basically the same uses as intended before.
The deck doesn't take you into a variance situation, right?
Say that again?
The deck does not take you into a variance situation, correct?
No, the deck will be part of the variance because it's going to be a little bit less with the setbacks on the variance.
Because you're extending the deck also, right?
Yes, I'm extending.
So it's the deck, because if I'm looking at the corner there, it looks like the deck is 18 feet off the property line,
Yeah.
That's proposed.
as proposed, yeah.
Yes, if you notice on the dimension that we put on the plot plan, we showed the dimension to the edge of the deck. Yes, the deck is included.
Now, could the deck have been shifted over or away from the property line?
If we shifted the deck away from the property line, we still would have needed the variance. The deck is existing on this side over here. And to make it come out from the dining room to it, we have to really go in that direction with the addition.
So you're looking to have access from that
Exactly.
dining area to the deck,
Because
that's
this is
your
my
intent.
kitchen over here with the windows. I have no accessibility. Right now, the sliding glass door is gonna be removed and cabinet is gonna go in front of it to accommodate the enlargement of the kitchen.
So you will get on the deck from the addition.
The dining from the addition, correct. And one of the main reasons to expand the deck is really to create the accessibility to it from, and having a bigger deck always comes in very handy, barbecue family, whatever.
And the variance you're asking for is from the deck.
From the deck, and the addition to the house will be a little bit further away from the property line. It will also encroach on the setbacks. Okay, it will also encroach on the setbacks, but the encroachment will be less because the angle of the property.
I see.
What's that gonna
Okay,
be?
the nearest point to the variance required is from the corner of the deck. The house is, I think, about 20 feet or
That's
so
what I
from
get
the
from the
property line.
plan here, yeah.
Right?
So this addition that you're proposing is a two-story addition.
Well, the basement, it's a raised ranch. I have a picture I can show you. Actually, make it a little bit. This is basically the house. It's a basically raised ranch, which is the lower level of the raised ranch. Is always referenced as the basement, which is basically, it's not a basement, it's a big family room type of scenario.
Okay, right, because you go into the raised ranch and you kind of in an entryway, and you can go up, you can go down.
Exactly, half a story up, half a story down, and that is, to extend it, that's basically a modified foundation to create a living space. It's very common in 75% of the houses in our neighborhood, in the area.
I noticed on the addition side, you're not putting any windows on that side of the house.
No, there's no
particular
reason
reason?
for it. We have plenty of windows on the front and the back. The neighbors, although the house is it's not as the other one, 100 feet, it's less than that, it's probably 50, 60 feet. It's a privacy for both to the neighbors and to the Fords themselves. And also they need wall space for television, for furniture, for whatever that has to go on that side.
And there appears to be a fair amount of screening.
Oh,
at the
yes,
satellite
yes.
view.
If you look at the picture, there's a lot of screening. The screening existing and it's tall, it's well maintained, it's in a good shape, all the plantings in between.
And you said you couldn't go behind the house due to the proximity of the septic fields, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. I have a copy of the as-built septic system. And if I am to do the addition over here, if I do it back there, I will be encroaching on the 20-foot setbacks required by the health department to maintain with the house.
For the house?
See this line over here that I indicated on that?
Yes.
That is the separation distance from the first field to the house. So that gives me approximately 3-4 feet in this corner only.
Now the deck,
Without encroachment on the septic system.
now the deck will be within 20 feet of the septic
The
system.
deck is allowed to
Is
be
what?
close to the septic system, yes, because it sits on columns, doesn't sit on full foundation.
Let me pass down and then we. Oh, let me pass this house picture.
This is the other side.
And where's your wellhead on the property?
Addition's over here.
The well is, as you see on the survey, the
Oh, in the
it's
front.
in the front and in the northeastern corner of the property.
I do see it there.
Yeah.
All right.
No stairs off the deck, Willie?
Say that again?
No stairs off the deck?
There's stairs, there's existing stairs on the other side, but they're not shown on the, you know, the existing stairs are facing towards the garage.
Face toward the garage?
Yes.
Okay. And they're close to the house?
Yes.
They're on, okay. I assume the siding you're gonna use is gonna match the rest of the house?
Correct, yes. We're gonna match the siding, match the roofing, match all the roof lines that we're proposing onto the house.
And the trees in between are going to stay.
Yes, so we are not cutting any trees as a result of this addition. There are no trees close by to the house, and the existing buffer between the house and the neighbor, you know, the trees are, like I said, they mature and they create almost like a hedge. It's really complete privacy between the two homes.
And so when you come into the Race Ranch, you go up, you say it's a dining area. When you go down, what's gonna be?
It's
on
just
the-
a family room downstairs.
Just a family
That's-
room down there.
Actually, you know, they got the boys over there, it's their playroom, and the boxing matches over there and whatnot.
Right.
You know. Oh, the section of the, for now is gonna be unfinished, but eventually, if they need to finish it, there will be a separate building permit for that.
Right, you have to get proper permits and everything. And-
Correct.
So we're not adding any bedrooms to this?
No, absolutely not.
There's no bedrooms, okay. Because then you gotta get Board of Health involved and
Exactly.
all kinds of things, as you, I'm sure know. Any other discussions or questions of the applicant? And Tom, for what you're seeing, you see that there's good screening in between the properties, huh?
Just want to take a look.
There is, yeah, you can take, there's an overhead picture,
Oh, yeah.
global earth.
It's like a wall of screening.
Yeah, it seems like there's quite a bit of foliage
Oh,
there,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Okay. Neighbors haven't voiced any concern or issues regarding this?
Not that we are aware of, no. I mean, that screening is like the perfect screen between two homes. It's better than a fence
Right,
and
right,
much, much taller.
right. Okay. Any other comments of the applicant at this point in time? Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in regard to the application? Any comments or issues? Nope. Sir, did you have anything additional to add at this point in time?
No.
Does the board want to have any further discussion, questions, or issues? You know, if there wasn't screening in between, I might recommend some screening or something like that, just to shield the neighbor, but seems like it's already in place at this point in time.
Shields it.
Yeah. The roof height of this house as compared with the adjoining houses, I assume everybody is either 1 or 2 stories in the neighborhood, it's consistent?
Exactly, they're within the same, this house is actually on the lower side of roof sides of the houses across the street or whatever. There are some 2 full-story colonials. This is like 1.5 story, basically.
Okay. Any further issues we have to discuss or anything else at this point in time?
No wetlands, something like that?
No.
So, Tommy, just one quick question for you here. So this is apparently a deck and part of the house is within the setback. It seems like two things are being constructed. Is it considered one variance for this, or are we okay to proceed as the application is before us?
It would be the, you know, as plans submitted, I would think the variance would be for.
We'd approve it based on the plan submitted? Because there's just some intricacies here that are, yeah, okay.
Well, because they are one structure and they attach, they usually, you go to the nearest point of the structure that you're seeking the variance for, and that will cover the entire thing. You know, but like Tom said, as per plans, because you cannot get the variance and then go put 2 stories above that. You know, but as long, you know, this is the plan, this is what we're proposing, and this is what the variance is granted for this. Any variation from this has to go back to the zone.
Right, we would be approving this.
Correct.
You know, unless we want some modification of some sort. Okay. Any further discussion or questions, or are we prepared to vote?
Yep, I'm good to go.
Okay, entertain a motion for the type of action.
Type 2.
Second?
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Mr. Polito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Santoroni?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion as to whether we're going to accept or deny the
I
application?
move to accept the application.
Second?
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Mr. Polito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Santoroni?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir, your application is granted.
Thank you very much.
No, sure. Septic plan back, I know they're rare, so. Okay, thank you very much.
We were surprisingly lucky enough to find it.
Yes. Do you want your photograph also back for your house, for the house there? Okay.
We don't want anything on paper. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
It's all recyclable.
So as mentioned before, item 5 for Choquette has been withdrawn by the applicant. So last item on the agenda this evening is just approval of the January 2019 minutes. Any changes or issues to the minutes?
No.
Nope. Okay, we'll just approve by consensus. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. January minutes are approved. Any further matters that we need to discuss or any other issues? At this point in time? No? I would just make mention that our next zoning board meeting is March 20th, 2019. Right, March 20th?
19.
March 19?
Yeah.
Are we sure on that? Let me just check the calendar. Third Tuesday? Let me check here. March 19th, I stand corrected, yes. And it will be right here in the townhouse. Being no further matters, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at this time. Okay, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.